Okay, so this time I'm using Half-Life 2 to explain what the heck is going on in my head as I try and process everything that's going on with the election. The special elections this time in Florida, where unfortunately, despite my best efforts as a phone banker, Josh Wheel lost and Randy Fine will be replacing Matt Gaetz in the House of Representatives. Excuse me. It's been a long day. And it's been an even longer day for Cory Booker, who has beaten the world record for longest Senate speech by 25 hours and 5 minutes or so. So, like, that's pretty great, though. And I can't wait to talk about it. While playing this game, which is how I feel right now a lot of the time.
Whatever you say.
I'll have more scripted thoughts tomorrow. I'm not sure what weapons I have to fight this guy with, but wow, this guy is just going back and forth weirdly for no reason. But I have to carefully assess the situation here. Anyway, so for the game Half-Life 2, I've been fighting these noobs who have occupied Earth. Basically what happened is Gordon Freeman was a, basically part of the problem. He let an experiment go out of control in Black Mesa, Arizona, and then, well, after that, aliens invaded the Earth, and, they decided to go through portal storms, and then the Combine hit, and then it was over. The portal storms were like lots of little blows before the final blow, and Cory Booker was part of the problem here. He was all about bipartisan decency in 2018 when he wanted to create a prison release program with the administration, basically, of sentencing reform, which is a noble goal, but you were legitimating a dictator, a wannabe dictator, I might add, and still not sure how I'm going to approach this. That's kind of been how I've been feeling with the Trump administration lately. How we've all been feeling. I hope that gun did something, but basically, now Gordon has been reawakened after 20 years in stasis to save the world, and that's basically how I feel about Cory Booker's speech, because, man, what an awesome speech that was. I hope to read the whole thing later, so that I can have a better idea of it. But finally, some Democrat shuts down business in the Senate to stand on business against Trump and Elon Musk and all of his cronies who have been causing us so much pain and torment for nearly 2 months now. Oh, you know what? I was an idiot and I should have just grabbed these rockets. But yeah. Again, still don't know why my cursor's like this. Anyway. So, it's also a bit heartbreaking to lose in Florida after phone banking for for an hour and a half today and then 2 hours on Saturday. Sometimes the tool was a little bit broken, and I'll admit that I could have phone banked a lot more people if I had just picked the English tool correctly. But, well, there you go. Sometimes that's the breaks when you are phone banking. I mean, I've phone banked on 2 successful elections and one unsuccessful primary and 1 unsuccessful election. Elections, this is how things go sometimes. But, like, the phone banking that I saw had a lot of energy behind it, so I had some hope that we could narrow things, and that seems to be what has happened, because Matt Gaetz won by 66% in 2022, or 2024, excuse me, and then he, could you leave me alone for 2 seconds, game? Most of the time for this show I will be using Microsoft Flight Simulator for a reason. But I wanted to do Half-Life 2 tonight, because I wanted to test how that operated on my Mac, and also because it's good to have a rallying point for a resistance. You may not win every battle, But the struggle for liberty is a marathon and not a sprint. And hopefully will not involve any of us attacking large alien mechs. But it feels like Elon is a large alien mech who controls an entire social media platform at his beck and call, and clearly wants to buy the Wisconsin Supreme Court. So, no, maybe he is an alien, because I don't know how someone human would be like crying about all the thank you, medic. See, in a resistance, you also gotta fall back sometimes and get support from your friends, and that's what I plan on doing pretty soon when I send the proper thought-filled live stream with a script about checks and balances and the history of presidential overreach when it comes to power, because this isn't the first time it's happened, for sure, where a president has tried to bend the Constitution how they like. I used to really like the presidency, but I think it's a very monarchical institution. It's pretty true, I feel like, that this...
Here, have a med.
Thank you with the med kit, again. But yeah, like... I got about a pretty normal result of voters who were, you know, who were responding to vote banking. Like, about 10% actually said that they voted, of people who picked up. I did not keep an accurate count of my phone banks. I really should have. But, it was really encouraging that I got 10 confirmed voters today. Because, like, the little things have to keep you going when it comes to something like this. When it comes to the fact that your civil rights could be threatened at any point, because while I may be safer now, because I am white, I'm also transgender. And once they start deporting, or renditioning, or whatever you want to call it, people who are American citizens, oh boy. Let's see. Audio. Yeah, let's slide that down a little bit. Okay. Well. Now I can hear myself think a little bit more, which should help. Again, this is more about testing the audio and figuring out what I want to say. Because I've been doing a lot of research on everything from the history of the fall of the Roman Empire to Napoleon to the business plot of the 30s to try and make sense of what's been going on. And now I'll be passing that on to you. The results of such with sources and everything is the idea. It's gonna take a lot of work to do this tomorrow, but sometimes you really just gotta push yourself, especially when it comes to something this important, especially because we might not get a chance soon to be able to speak our minds, and it's scary to do that, to speak out, to take a risk. But it's scarier for me not to take at least some risk when it comes to this, because my girlfriend and her son in Swaziland are counting on me to give them a future, and I don't know how I'll be able to do that with this economy. I don't know how many times I'm gonna get defeated, but I'm gonna get back up for them. Because they are the most important people in my life. They are. I love them so much, and I can't wait to see them in a few weeks. But I also am worried that, you know, the President of the United States might just decide to say fuck it and declare martial law. At which point the results would be unpredictable, but would, I think, go badly for him. And if that's the case, then we shouldn't be afraid to speak out, because if he tries doing this, it'll be from a position of weakness. People are mad at him about all sorts of things, from the economy to our foreign policy being a disaster with all our allies hating us, and Russia somehow being our ally, to the senseless layoff of thousands of federal workers who are just doing their jobs for specious political reasons, to the, again, illegal rendition of human beings who have been permanent residents here. Alright. They may relentlessly fire on you with all sorts of tricks, but the key to surviving authoritarianism, from my understanding as a political science nerd and history nerd who has studied wars, rebellions, civil rights movements, is that they cannot keep this up forever. The way you keep it up is you are careful. You speak out when appropriate, you protect yourself when appropriate. That's what I'm gonna do. It makes sense, because, like, human beings can only consume so much news. People should be able to relax. I want to be able to relax. I want to go to AwesomeCon. I want to work on my novel. I want to watch Deadwood with my parents halfway across the country. I want to do so many things, but I can't, because I'm paralyzed with fear, and that's what they want. But then fear has to turn to fight at some point, because by the time people decide to fight after a dictator comes into power and completely breaks the rule of law, it's currently bending, but I don't think it's broken yet. I mean, that's hard to say when the president is literally above for criminal prosecution, but we can use what remains of the law to defend ourselves. This is the defensive action to protect what rights we have left against a king just deciding that, oh, the past 60 years of civil rights don't apply anymore. That the ADA is a suggestion. That the Supreme Court rulings that protect trans people from being fired, like Bostock v. Clayton County, are mere suggestions to the king! I will not stand for this! I will not! I have to take a stand somewhere. For most people, I feel like that will be April 5th when they start to do that, but, well, I'm out of suit power, so that's not good. And my medic is down. Ugh, lots of setbacks, I foresee, from this. Though I think I think we managed to beat the mechs, so now I just have to take care of these guys in the window. Nope, not quite. Okay, well, this is a really tough fight because there's so little cover. But, again, if you're careful, you can find opportunities to make a difference. This does not necessarily mean violence, even though I'm doing that in the video games to the fascists of the Combine from this universe. It's more just that, like, every little bit has to help. And the reason why there hasn't been flashy, giant protests all the time is because people have been organizing. And people do not organize for the media and their amusement. They organize where it makes sense to them. Like, this has been completely organic, same with the general strike. And I hope that my role, eventually, in a calmer game, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, is that I can help be the educator for the resistance. That I can teach real history, because the scariest part for me, the thing that said I have to do this now, when I'd already been kind of planning it, but still, like, it is a risk, it is scary. It's easier just to watch TV. But that's what they want.
Dr. Freeman, I'm coming with you.
They want you to watch TV, go to the movies still, buy, while things are being torn apart slowly. well, people are tuning out of the news, that's what will happen. But the news, as we know it, is broken because it's about the headlines and not about any deeper substance. That's what I'm trying to do with this. What I'm trying to do
Wait for me, Dr.
is
Freeman.
essentially go past the headlines and put them in context of history and current events as we've known them to be in the past. God, this is a really tough one. Like I mentioned. This mech just refuses to go down, no matter how many times I hit it. And again, do not hit people, please, or throw things. Like, I get why people are sympathetic to Luigimangione, because, like, he took out his personal pain on someone's life. And that guy was scum, so I guess he deserved it, is the idea. But now, what he's really is the martyr. Because the government is seeking the death penalty to make an example out of him. Whether this was actually terrorism, no, absolutely not. This is a trumped-up terrorism charge to get the death penalty, because that's what they want. They want... This is a trumped-up terrorism charge to get the death penalty, because that's what they want. They want to say, look, if you try anything against people, we will come after you. So don't try anything against people until they come after you first. And I mean really come after you, like mass arrests in the streets, shooting protesters, that kind of thing. And I do not believe that we are there yet. I don't believe that the president will use the military against protesters. But that's mostly because he's a weakling and an idiot and he blusters all the time. It is very difficult to know with such a guy whether he's joking about something like a third term. But the point is to take things seriously, put them in context, then dismiss him. Oh, for crying out loud, leave me alone. That's kind of my feeling on the Trump administration right now, is Elon constantly is haranguing us with all this spam, including, again, spamming elections with money. But again, we did have a small victory, even though we lost in Florida today. Because it was by less than we lost last time. There is a number of people, about 13% of that district, that are not happy at all and wanted a change. Throw the bums out politics may have given us 2024 in the midst of people not remembering that the President of the United States tried to literally overthrow the government because he was mad about being a sore loser and put him in because, well, Biden had him fixed inflation magically. And now, people are realizing that the president just cannot fix inflation magically. And also, the current president is an idiot who is about to cause the worst inflation since the Great Depression. So, like... And that's tomorrow. It's on all these billions and billions of dollars of goods from nearly every country in the world. 20% tariffs for everybody. That's not a 20% price increase, guys and gals and others. It's a 20% increase in the cost of goods, and then you have to double that in order to make your profit back. So you either squeeze the suppliers, which is what Costco is doing, and good on them for not passing on costs to consumers, or you pass on costs to consumers, which is sometimes necessary, but is typically seen now as corporate greed because there was some corporate greed during the pandemic that was part of some of the inflation mix. I don't think it was as much as the Democrats thought it was, because, well, they would have had to admit that maybe the government stimulus kind of overheated the economy during the pandemic. But the alternative was a depression, where like 50 to 60% of the country was out of work. So I feel like the stimulus was necessary, even if it was a little bit excessive. mostly for the President Trump side, because it didn't seem to actually add much compared to the American Rescue Plan when it came to actual benefits for people. Because, well, that's his whole deal. Is he throws in a little bit of crumbs for the regular folks, like with the Tax Cuts and Job Act, that is about to be renewed this year. That's another point where Democrats can show some resistance. The problem is, of course, being they're out of power, and so they've been like, what exactly do you want us to do? And Cory figured it out. He talked to his staff. He read letters from constituents. He listened to people. That's what representatives are supposed to do. Instead of just being like, oh, sorry, I got nothing, and we tried nothing. You know? Like Chuck Schumer did. I was literally just so unbelievably mad when he caved. I swore at the TV, because it was like, that was your one chance. And I kind of get his arguments that they didn't want to make it worse for federal employees, but the thing is that you should have set the narrative that this is the Republican shutdown, and that the party that wants to do egregious things to the government shouldn't be getting the credit for keeping it open, because they're currently doing egregious things to the government. Like deciding that, PBS and Sesame Street somehow are part of the evil woke agenda, so we need to get rid of them. Or that NPR is biased because, well, that guy just blocked my shot. How many of these things are gonna come? Oh, God. Okay. Feels like a gauntlet here, and I haven't really made much progress. But, well, that's resistance. There will be days where you may not feel like there's much actually happening or changing. There will be days where I feel like, oh man, I really sucked at that. Because, like, you know, it does stink a little bit that we didn't pull it out in Florida, but it was always a long shot. I still wanted to do it because I feel like the fight is worth having. Because any time that I can stand for liberty is a time that is worth standing for. But, you know, that's when I can, because, you know, I still have a life. I still want to see my family and such. You know, again, make time for yourselves. It can't always be a fight. But, like, I can't wait to get more ideas from people about how I can contribute to this after the more scripted live stream. After the... After the exhausting 8, 9 years, almost 10, yeah, 10 years that I've had between the state of politics in this country, in this crazy sauce world, and my gender identity confusion, and then my divorce, and so yeah, it's been a really stressful 10 years for me, and I have gained quite a bit of gray hair on my beard. But I still have to fight. Again, my little man is 9, and he doesn't know any better about what's going on. All he knows is he's excited to finally meet me. Because finally he'll have a second parent. Not that my girlfriend hasn't been doing a great job, it's just, you know, like, I feel like that's something that kids really want, is another parent, a lot of the time. And that's, a lot of the time. And that I want to be that for him more than anything in the world. I probably should have been doing this. Okay. Can we finally stop with the mechs, please? I think this game is just one giant visual metaphor for struggling in place at the moment. Because, like, it takes a lot more effort to do things now. Like, except for that. Oops! Oh boy. Well, I was so close, and then at the hour of my own victory, I snatched it from the... I snatched defeat. But you know what? Yeah, that's also basically a giant metaphor for the Democratic Party up until this point, because I feel like after the mass protest on the 5th in DC, hashtag see you in the streets, we are going to get a much better momentum for everything. Again, we made a dent. It's been 2 months. It's gonna be a marathon, not a sprint, as I've been mentioning. And there are gonna be some hard things that are gonna happen to you. Fortunately for me, being a white male-passing individual, the worst that's happened to me in the past few weeks is a feeling of despondency and being called a dumb bitch by a phone caller who gave me a sense of what trans people call euphoria. What I mean by that being, like, oh, well, thank you for making me feel like a girl, but also that's not good. That's not cool, you know? Like, my voice is very high-pitched, so I used to get very upset when people would misgender me on the phone. But then I was like, oh, actually, yeah. My people think my voice is pretty. I don't know. It's been 3 years into a lifetime of figuring this out. And what perfect timing I fucking had for that. Like, come on. Okay, yeah, there are 2 mechs. Alright, well, let me load the game again. Again, I do not know why the cursor keeps getting stuck. Oh, now it's finally unstuck. Great. Okay, but, well, I think I have an idea of what I need to do next. Because, like, the thing about this game is it's... At this stage, it's very punishing, it seems. Because, I'll be frank, this is a game from 2004. The controls are... They're fine. They're fine. But, this was clearly built for the PC and not controllers. Which is what I normally play on. I mean, I'm good at PC shooters since I was a kid, teenager, playing Call of Duty 2, but, well, I generally prefer controller because, well, I just do. I've been playing console games for 10 years. What was that? Okay, let me just re-up on my suit energy here for a second. But yeah, I think the plan here is to pick off the little guys from the ground floor, and, whoa! Okay, huh. No. Alright. So far, so good. I mean, there's always save scumming, but you don't have that option in real life, so I'm gonna try not to do that. It's just annoying because the one ammo...
You're not leaving without me.
Okay, well, at least we got new squad members. Because that's what I need, is a squad. Like, I'm just usually one person in my room recording podcasts against authoritarianism, and I feel like I've had some success with that, particularly with Sunny Redemption Sailing, where I've criticized the game industry for a number of things, including the immoral use of AI to try to replace people, among other things. And the Hidden Faith, where I've gone toe-to-toe with the necrotic, insipid, incurious bunch of cultists called the Baha'i Faith that I have ever had the displeasure of interacting with these past 15 years. The thing about authoritarianism is it usually comes with a smile. or it wraps itself in the flag, or it says, well, we have the answers for world peace, and our God, our king, our whatever is the our God, our king, our whatever is the answer. Just surrender your mind to the all-powerful. Now, oh God, okay. Man, this is punishing. I feel like it has to be close to the end of the game, or otherwise they wouldn't be like this. Oh yeah, it's the City 17 Fortress. We are definitely almost there, but okay. Sorry, I just had a bit of a problem with my mouse for a little bit, for some reason. I'll troubleshoot that later. And I'm hoping that my audio doesn't stink, so that when I actually really expound on things with history involved... Again, the history being erased is the part that concerns me the most, because the Smithsonian Museum was my favorite part of DC. It still is for now. Can you please get out of my way? Thank you. I would really love it if you would move. Thanks. Well, you almost got exploded, so... Anyway, but yeah, when I was 11, I really loved the Air and Space Museum. Again, still do in its current form. Before President Trump tries to force out the trustees through Congress, which is the only way that he can actually really affect any changes at the Smithsonian level, I feel like. Otherwise, this is just red meat for his base. But also just putting incessant personal political pressure on the African American Museum and the Women's Museum to not say that America is a racist nation at its core, and also not say that that trans women have always existed throughout American history. The fact that they are erasing the transgender individuals, the Stonewall riot, including Marsha P. Johnson, who was the actual heroine for that, who threw the first brick, and the fact that they tried to get rid of Navajo code talkers just in a stupid and random push for the end of DEI, which basically just means anything that white people don't like now. And I'm a white people, you know, so I could say that. Because I've always had one foot in privilege and one foot in difficulty. Because I have a disability. I have autism. I have only ever lived under a legal framework where my disabilities have been protected by the federal government. And now, they're trying to say things like that disabled dwarves, the wannabe king's words, not mine, are the reason that planes are falling out of the sky and not them. Because there are no limits of decency with these people. They will go after anybody they feel like, divide anyone they want, if it means a cheap and easy victory. Because that's what people do now, is they pick fights for stupid reasons, are inflexible on their positions, and don't want to listen. Well, guess what? I'm listening! If you have stories about the Trump administration personally affecting you in negative ways that you feel like you need to be anonymous from, I'm throwing my hat into the ring as a podcaster. I took anonymous testimony from a Baha'i who was afraid of retaliation from his cult for speaking out, and that got a lot of traction, I feel like, thanks for all the support it has had so far, because I've been fearless, because I have protected the anonymity of my sources, because I have defended justice with historical sources. The President of the United States may want to delete history, but I will not let him! I will not let him! Do you hear me, Internet? I will not let history be deleted. And if they try to delete me, then my words will live on forever.
Freeman, I'm coming with you.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes all it takes is a few people at your back to give you the courage to go out there. To poke your head up. Oh dear. Well, I probably should try one more time this way. It's good to have some place to vent and kind of bang my head against the wall a little bit so that eventually I can get my head right and really start putting the script together for tomorrow. It won't have like the most thorough bibliography ever because of that, and I'm sorry for that in advance, but I have tried to pick a topic that I could really speak on specifically, and I just haven't found the time to really research each of these things in depth. So what I'm hoping, again, is that every month in some place like Microsoft Flight Simulator, where I can fly over particular places that are impacted by current events, I can then calmly explain the history without getting shot at. That's usually why I pick games like Sea of Thieves for Sunny Redemption Sailing, because most of the time nothing is happening there. But I still feel this is illustrative, for a number of reasons that are very plainly visually evident to see. We are clearly the underdogs here when it comes to the fight for America, because the president has the full force of the federal government in the United States on his side, except for the employees who are still trying to defend the Constitution, but usually they just get placed on administrative leave. Though there have been some successes against that, such as the U.S. African Development Foundation. The Consumer and Financial Protection Bureau is on life support from judges, and USAID is toast, which means that my family in Africa cannot go to the doctor without paying for it, which essentially I would to be doing that. And you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, like, they shouldn't have to. If USAID had kept offering its free medical services, I don't think anyone would have minded. Nor would it be like an opening for China, which is basically what's happening. I kind of hate to use the competition from global leadership, or for global leadership, excuse me, angle here, but it's true. The angle is that, unfortunately, the way that you enforce the law abroad in international waters is you have nations willing to contribute to that. And the US, for all of its faults, for all of its American empire, did do that. It did. And again, many times it was through military interventions that were wrong, such as Vietnam or Iraq. But then again, that's where the diplomacy came in. That's where the soft power came in, trying not to get to that point. That was what the good half of the federal government was doing, in my opinion. Not that, again, our veterans didn't, you know, do great service for our country. It's just that lions were led by donkeys, you know? That our soldiers were killed by the thousands for the profits of Halliburton. But things like humanitarian assistance have to be part of the solution. Oh dear. I guess the play is you're not really supposed to stay on the roof, which makes sense. Okay. I think this is gonna be like, oh, well, they autosaved. Really wish the gravity gun was helpful for that. But, let me just refill my suit energy here. And then go at them with the one weapon the game is allowing me to really use. Okay, and taking my opportunity to... Ow. And I want to do more fun things with this format, too. Like, explain all the fun things that I'm gonna end up doing in South Africa and Dubai at the end of April, but I don't know if, like... There's just so many unknowns. It's hard to really feel like I can look forward to much of anything. Even though I want to, even though I do, it feels hard to do that. Simply because, like, next week, they could just decide all flights to this country are banned, and, like, planes might be falling out of the sky more, but I've prepaid for my trip, so I gotta take a risk for the people that I love to be able to see them. Because I've been dating my girlfriend for 6 long months, long distance, and it's been really hard to not have that closeness. You know? It feels like this whole era of Trump has taken away a lot of our ability to be human because we're so stressed out about what one guy will do next week. I mean, it's happened in other parts of my family too. In ways that I want to keep private, obviously, but it's like... I just want everybody I care about to be happy and not have to deal with this shit anymore. The best chance we have of stopping him is the midterms. But I'm worried that he'll just declare that that election was stolen and then use that to declare martial law. Do I think that's likely? No, and I'll have more explanations as to why. But all the historical analogies in the world don't predict the future. They just give you the tools to deal with similar behavior being done by idiots. Like, Americans have a rich tradition of calling the president a king during drastic times such as war and stuff. And then when you know that that's the only time that that's really been implemented, you can take Trump to task for doing these wartime things when it's not war. While we still have a platform, we need to relentlessly bash the fascists for every stupid thing they say. Because if we remain silent, again, they win. If we cower from their mechs, they win. If we think, well, they're the Combine and I'm just Gordon Freeman and I can't do anything and I should just remain in stasis for 20 years, then they win. But when you find networks of solidarity, which is what I'm still doing, when you find people who care about this just as much as you do, whether they're online or in person, though in person has its advantages and disadvantages for sure. I'm very nervous about the protest on April 5th. I want to make sure that I'm safe. I have measures that will allow me to do that, I believe. That I obviously want to keep private. But I will not be live streaming this, and I will probably not be posting clips from there because I've been told, well, you know, be careful about showing people's faces, and I don't know how to blur everybody out yet. I can figure that out, sure, but it's a very big risk made to other people. Like, acceptable risks, such as criticizing when things are wrong. And this no, not even an administration. This criminal mafia organization that poses as an administration is wrong. Everything they have ever done is wrong and illegal. So just treat them like they're wrong and illegal all the time. Don't try to work with them, Chuck Schumer. And then take the credit later. That guy. I really don't like him right now, but his daughter has no marketable skills other than being connected to her daddy, so that's how it goes. That's why Dianne Feinstein was dragged out. I don't know if I still don't quite know if I buy the criticism of Biden's age being as persuasive, because I think in certain instances he was just tired and that exacerbated the symptoms of aging and of his disability. He probably should have slowed down. And honestly, if I were president and I could set the rules of how campaigns go, porch front campaign, where you don't have to leave, and then people could come to you with their problems. And I will show how that was done in 1896. Not in depth on everything, because there are... I'm so sorry, medic. But there are, you know, ways that you can weave in these historical references to current day so that people understand. That's what I want to do with History Flights. That's the third format that I've been trying to figure out for podcasts. 3 podcasts by myself probably isn't sustainable all the time for my mental health, so, like, normally I try, for instance, to time Sunny Redemption Sailing with gaming news that comes out, like the Nintendo Switch 2 livestream tomorrow. The Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, excuse me. But at the same time, you know, I work with somebody who has a different schedule than me, and it's not sustainable to do that every 2 weeks, precisely, and at every opportunity as a result. So there's that. For the Hidden Faith, which is more involved anyway, I am doing that once every 3 months or so, and the next episode of that will be around June to criticize the Baha'i hypocrisies when it comes to LGBTQ people and gaslighting, all of that. I still have need of a co-host because that would be great to have somebody to bounce off of, especially if they're LGBTQ ex-Baha'i, or just Baha'i, or especially if they're LGBTQ ex-Baha'i, or just Baha'i, or ex-Muslim, or whoever. Like, just somebody who's in that fight with me on religion. The United Cults team has been great for production assistance on that. And, so it could be nice to have somebody to help with the production assistance for this, but, as long as I have a topic for this particular format, I feel like I can just go off of the script while the plane goes vroom. Because I've tried to do that while flying the plane, and it gets unstable because I get distracted or something else happens. So I'll have autopilot do it. You know, just have the plane automatically fly from one point to the other so I can really focus on the vistas and the history. Because I've always had a love of geography, and geography will help put things in perspective for so many people. Because it's easier to understand the enormity of deporting, of illegally banishing people, really, who have been in this country for, you know, sometimes 20 years, who have been in this country for, you know, sometimes 20 years, when you are on a flight, like the one they took. Or, if there's another flare-up in Gaza, I can fly over that. I feel like that stream was intending to find a good balance between political narratives that were going on at the time. I am definitely more leaning towards the idea that Israel has always wanted a genocide, but I had to stick up for the hostages, too, you know, because they were people too. And really, it's a pox on both your leaderships, still, for me, because this conflict is idiotic and stupid, and it always has been idiotic and stupid, because the solution has been there since 1967, with pre-1967 borders with land swaps. And then, you know, people just blunder ahead and do that anyway, because they don't have historical memory. Because they don't know how to get past the immediate rage bait.
Take this med kit.
That's what people need to know, is that nuance needs to be restored again. People need to know how to examine historical sources. How to learn how people back then thought, even if they don't agree with them. Because the founding fathers, the framers of the Constitution, were definitely not perfect. The Constitution is not some holy scripture, but it is part of my highest ideals, and it's been dismaying to see President Orange Grover Cleveland II just decide to wipe his ass with it. Like, there is no way that you can convince me that any of what he's been doing has been constitutional, because his whole deal has been, Article 2 gives me the right to do whatever I want. Which makes no sense, because if you just did that, then you would just have a king. And the founding fathers had just fought a war to depose a king. But here's the thing. This stuff apparently goes in 80-year cycles too, or something like that. The last of the World War II generation, on the cusp of dying out, is a problem for historical memory. Because if people didn't get their experiences down firsthand from soldiers who were reticent to talk about their experiences in Europe, then they may not have gotten that truth. Having been a concrete, singular historical force that we've defeated and now can move on from. Having been a concrete, singular historical force that we've defeated and now can move on from and joke about. Not that Nazis aren't a joke, but it's so easy to say, oh, it would be so easy to fight off fascism until it comes into your backyard.
Freeman, I'm coming with you.
Here, patch yourself up.
Thank you for the med kit, my friend. I'm gonna do just that now. I'm gonna try to get through this section, but if I die again, I'm going to end this live stream. Because again, most of the point was just to show this, the struggle, the frustration, the contempt that I have, and the fact that, yeah, I'm part of this fight. And I want to be, and I need your input for future episodes of History Flights after this one, summarizing all of the, and cutting through all of the bullshit that has been happening in the first, like, 100 days of the administration, or less. It's been, again, a very lonely fight, because I've been researching, just relentlessly trying to get ahead of this. Of course, the idea being that Trump just spams us with executive orders and then we give up because there's too many things to follow. But again, if you can see the pattern, if you can see the historical parallels, you don't necessarily have to remember every single detail that I end up telling you. But what you do need to know is that this too shall pass. Trump will not win. The American people are not special, and that is why they will win. Because ordinary people are the only bulwark against liberty, the only true bulwark. Sure, it's nice when politicians actually do their jobs and defend checks and balances, but my argument is that the ultimate check and balance is always the people. Because when a government aims to oppress, you know, paraphrasing the Declaration of Independence that is now in Trump's office, so he can use it as a piece of political theater for the July 4th, 2026 celebrations, which will be a fascist parade that I am not looking forward to. You know, full of empty patriotism and empty references to history, to only the good parts of history that say that America is always its ideals, when that has never been the case. There has always been a civil war of a metaphorical kind between America's darkest impulses of imperialism and slavery and such, and then for freedom. and to live up to the ideals of the Declaration of Independence. But yeah, the Declaration of Independence says that when a government aims to oppress people, they shall have the duty to throw off such government. Probably not like that, though. And then, when they do that, it is not for me to say how. Though I, again, would caution that we are not at the point where we should be... like, really Luigiing people. You know what I mean? I really don't like what he did, because it is important to be peaceful. They're trying to frame the Tesla attacks on private property as the same as hurting people, because these billionaire soulless tech bros believe that their property has the same value or more than their workers, clearly, because they want to have a machine replace them and then create an AI surveillance network so we're all on our best behavior, which is what Elon has been doing by stealing our data and feeding it into his stupid fucking AI. Who knows how much data he's stolen? Who knows what kind of dossiers he's pulling on federal employees to make sure they're loyal to President Trump? And again with that. That one is a complete cell phone, so I'm not gonna give up based on that. Again, I really just hope that the audio does not suck, and that I can troubleshoot it. Because I've had a couple of streams in the past where I've had swallowed audio. It's made me think that perhaps I should have gotten a gaming PC instead of a Mac Mini. But at that point, I had so many Apple devices, from my iPhone to my iPad to my Apple TV, and even to my HomePod Mini, that I basically surrendered to the Apple ecosystem and became an all-Apple person. Well, except for my Windows PC that I use to stream from occasionally when I'm at my parents' house and have access to nothing else, but it may be good to have that, you know, just in case of a number of things. But basically, what life is like now for a lot of technology is, well, you bumped up against this arbitrary restriction that means that we get to make more money, so now you just have to deal with it. Because life is apparently all about the elite trying to impose things on people, and I will not stand for it. Even though I've had privilege, even though I have had fortunate opportunities, I have also worked hard for them. And I don't think that that Elon Musk has ever really had to worry about whether his family in South Africa will be well taken care of. You know? So, I may not be perfect. I may, you know, goof up sometimes and misunderstand my sources and such. I may have positions that you don't entirely agree with, such as my position on Israel and Palestine. Again, free Israel, free Palestine. That's the only way we're gonna get to peace. But anyway, but it's not about ideological perfection anymore. It's not about a list of holy words that makes you #resistance. Because that's not how that works. You have to be able to form a coalition with people who disagree with you. That's the reason the Gaza protest movement failed. They were unable to overcome their own insistence on their own particularized approach to things of insisting that there was genocide without much evidence. Because this kind of thing takes time to investigate. Now, with literally nobody even trying to stop him, Netanyahu has gone mask off, but at the time, the evidence for a lot of things was based on emotionally heavy videos from front lines, and everybody has to be skeptical of all narratives at all times. That is the only way to true knowledge, I believe. Even one's own. Because, well, I've held inflexible positions before. It's very easy. It was very easy during the Bush administration to just say all Republicans are dumb. You know? To stereotype the other side because there was the guy you didn't agree with. And it is very easy, still, for me to be like, oh, too bad, so sad about some MAGA voters' preferences leading to disaster, but I talked to people who had gotten into car accidents and still wanted to vote in Florida. I talked to a woman who wanted to vote but was stuck on her work shift, so her boss wouldn't let her go before the polls closed. I talked to, again, yeah, a guy who called me a dumb bitch, but that's people. People are gonna call you a dumb bitch sometimes, and you just have to shake it off sometimes.
Take this med kit.
Freeman, you're not leaving without me.
Yeah, well, I hope not, but you're probably gonna get blowed up, medic.
While I reload.
Anyway, yeah, I think that's it for me. For now, I'm gonna check to make sure that this does not have any problems. But well, in conclusion, I'll say this: Cory Booker has given a lot of people hope for a good reason. It makes sense. They are very excited to actually have somebody who is fighting back, who really wants to say, hey, enough is enough, and I'm going to list all of the stuff that has been going on. I can't do that, but I can list some of the things. I can, again, help you see the patterns through everything historically, and see it in stark contrast on this virtual Earth with Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I hope you'll join me for History Flights in the future and give me feedback on what episodes you would want me to cover, you know. Anyway, you all have a good one.